Hey guys, it's Christy with This Country Girl's Life. This is not a video I was planning to do today, so I'm a hot mess. I literally have just been trying to cook dinner for me and my daughter because we're here alone for the week. So yeah, I don't have my makeup done, my hair, anything, and you'll probably hear my daughter. You probably already did. There she is. That's Colleen. You'll hear the dogs. Steve has had quite an opinion on what has happened today, so he may be chiming in the background. Anyway, the reason I'm here is because there was breaking news in the Gabby Petito situation today. Her parents are filing a $50 million wrongful death lawsuit against the Moab Police Department in Utah. Now, if you followed the Gabby Petito case, which I assume you probably did because you're here, you know that they were pulled over August 12th of last year in Moab after getting a 911 call reporting that witnesses had seen Brian hitting Gabby and trying to steal her phone and drive off and leave her in downtown Moab. So the family are filing this lawsuit on Friday. They put in, it's called a notice of claim, and apparently you have to file that when you want to sue the government. They put it in on Friday, but the press release was today. It was like 12:30 Eastern time, I believe. And the notice of claim contends that police in Moab missigns that Gabby was the victim of DV at the hands of Brian Laundrie. The lawsuit alleges that police failed to recognize their daughter was in a life-threatening situation on August 12th of last year after pulling them over to investigate a fight between them. And if you guys remember, let me switch this picture real quick here. This was Gabby. They had separated her and Brian and talked to them individually, and Gabby was really upset. She's sitting in the back of the car. They gave her a bottle of water. And they mentioned seeing that she had like a mark on her arm and a scratch on her face. Remember in the body cam video, Gabby was saying, yeah, he must have got me with his fingernail. I can feel it. It burns or something like that. And then Dipsy Doodle Brian was just over there yucking it up with the cops, smiling and, no, it was nothing. She's OCD and no big deal, blah, blah, blah. Completely different look to him as there was to Gabby. I mean, look at this poor girl. She is beyond upset. And I get it. I mean, okay, it didn't necessarily have to be she was upset because Brian hit her in Moab, although I'm sure that is part of why she looks so upset. But, a lot of people just kind of fall apart when they get pulled over, and the cops at this point are like, Brian's the victim, Gabby was beating him up, and they're talking about arresting Gabby. And so, really stressful situation for her. And, Brian's all, no, it's not like that. And, it was a hot mess. If you want to go back and watch the body cam footage and coverage of the case, I really recommend Grizzly True Crime with Gisela K. She covered this extensively, and it'd be a really good refresher for you to kind of go back and remember like what brought this whole lawsuit on. So one of the attorneys named James McConkey stated today that if officers had been properly trained and followed the law, Gabby would still be alive today. And I see where they're coming from with this, but at the same time, I mean, I love the Petito family and the Schmidt family, her mom, dad, stepmom, stepdad. They're amazing people, and they have done so many great things through the Gabby Petito Foundation. They just made $100,000 donation to the National Domestic Violence Hotline. And they've really done a lot to help other people get out of situations like we believe that Gabby was in. So love the family. A little worried about the lawsuit, maybe not panning out though, because saying that had they handled that stop differently means Gabby would still be here today is a little bit of a stretch. And here's why I'm saying that. Now, there was the potential that they could have arrested Gabby. Long story short, when it ended up, they did make them stay separately. Now, they gave Brian a hotel. There was an organization there for DV victims, and if they needed a hotel room, they would provide it. Well, since the police had decided that Brian was the victim here, they gave him the hotel room, and then Gabby had to stay in the van, and they weren't allowed to see each other that whole night. And then they were able to get back together in the morning and continue their trip. And then we don't know the exact day that Gabby passed, but roughly 2 weeks later is when Brian strangled her and left her at the Grand Teton Forest. So saying that if they had acted on the 12th, Gabby would still be here. I wish we had a crystal ball and we knew for sure that that's true, but we don't. I mean, who's to say if they had acted and somebody had got arrested? Because they had said something about, sorry, I'm like spitting on myself. I'm still sick, and this is the time of the day that my medicine just makes me bonkers. They had said if Gabby got arrested, there was going to be, I'm not sure if they said a restraining order, but some sort of an order of, like an order of protection, something. And Brian was going to have to go, sorry, let's back up. Brian was going to have to go to the court or the police station or something the next day and file to like have it withdrawn so they could be back together. So even if that had happened, even if they had arrested Brian and Gabby decided, no, I want to be with him, I'm going to go and I'm going to rescind this order and we're just going to go on about our trip, we could still be right where we are today. But let's go on. So earlier in the year, there was an independent investigation done into the incident involving the police in Moab and this traffic stop. They found that several unintentional mistakes were made when they came across Gabby and Brian. In the report, police said it was very likely that Petito was in a long-term victim. Sorry, that Gabby Petito was a long-term victim of DV, whether that be physically, mentally, and or emotionally. And that's fair to say because a lot of her, the things that she said, her actions, even the way Brian was acting, you could tell something wasn't right there. But the family alleges that Moab officers Eric Pratt and Daniel Robbins failed to properly handle the 911 call in which a witness claimed he saw Brian Laundrie hitting Gabby and trying to steal her phone and drive off without her in the middle of downtown Moab. Roughly 2 weeks later, Brian killed Gabby and left her body at Bridger Teton National Forest Campground in Wyoming. So let me know what you think. Like, if they had handled it differently, do you think Gabby would still be here? Another reason that I kind of question this is because, let's a little further into my notes. So this filing also revealed that Gabby called her parents during the stop. If you remember in the body cam footage, there's a picture and she's got her phone and I think she was FaceTiming either her mom or her dad, and they never really said, but this filing says that she called her parents during the stop, and her parents wanted to pay for her to get a ride to Salt Lake City and then buy her a flight home to get her away from laundry. But when they heard the police were involved, they just took Gabby's assurances that everything was going to be okay and she was fine to continue on their trip. Again, the offer was made by her parents to get her home, but she didn't want to take it. So even if an arrest had been made, would we have ended up with a different outcome? Or would she have just done exactly that and continued on with her trip? We don't know. And I think that's going to be the hardest part to prove about this case. I mean, one good thing about the case is it does, you know, bring DV back out in the open and get people talking about it and talking about how the police, how first responders should be trained and how they should be handling it when they come across it. Let's see, another attorney, Brian Stewart, for the family, stated, had the officers involved had training to implement proper lethality assessment and to recognize the obvious indicators of abuse, it would have been clear to them that Gabby was a victim of intimate partner violence and needed immediate protection. He also said that a previously undisclosed photo of Gabby taken during the incident shows a close-up view of her face where blood is smeared on her cheek and left eye, revealing the violent nature of Brian's attack. It also shows that she was grabbed across her nose and mouth, potentially restricting her airway, and we know Brian strangled her. So that is really disturbing to actually like see that all written out that way. I don't have a picture of the face, but they did show this picture of her arm in the car, and you can kind of see red marks where he probably had grabbed on to her arm, and they had never shown that before. They said that there are several undisclosed items of evidence, which I'm assuming are probably more photos that will be brought out during this lawsuit. The notice of claim filed Friday, but was made public today. It names officers Pratt and Robbins, former Moab Police Chief Brett Edge, and former Assistant Chief Braden Palmer. The complaint focuses particularly on Pratt's actions during the stop. He had seniority over Robbins. If you remember, Robbins was relatively new. It was almost like he was still in training because he seemed really unsure about what to do, how to handle it. He was deferring to Pratt a lot, and Pratt was kind of encouraging him, you know, like, hey, how do you feel about it? You know, you make a decision, you know, that kind of thing. Eventually, though, Pratt calls Assistant Chief Palmer, and he seeks guidance on how to handle the situation. Palmer tells Pratt to look up the statute, so he Googles it, and he reads over the abuse statute for the state, and Palmer told Pratt to carefully read it and decide whether the situation satisfied the statute. Now, after he reads that, that's when we see him go back to the vehicle, and he goes up to Gabby, and he's like, hey, I got to ask you something. You know, it's really important. The way you answer this is going to determine what happens next. And he asked if, sorry, there's something up here at me. These spur of the moment things are a lot of fun. Anyway, he asks her when she pushed Brian or hit him, slapped him, whatever she said she did, was she doing that to cause him bodily injury or physical harm or something to that effect? And she said no. And that's when they decided they weren't going to arrest her, because she didn't do it intending to hurt him. So after they interviewed Gabby and Brian separately, and they called one of the witnesses that had seen them outside the Moonflower and Moab fighting, they decided that it wasn't DV and it was just a mental health break. And at the press conference, the attorney stated that the purpose of this lawsuit is just one part of the family's broader effort to raise awareness and education to protect victims of DV and help make sure that our governmental institutions are held to account and that they are given the resources and training that they need to do their jobs. We believe that these officers were negligent and their negligence contributed to Gabby's death. That's it for my notes. So, like I said, I get it. I really feel like if they are to win this lawsuit in any fashion, even if it's not 50 million, if they settle for something else, these aren't the type of people that are out here just trying to get money so they can go buy like a fancy house or a fancy car or something. I feel like they will probably put it into the Gabby Petito Foundation and probably distribute those funds to make sure that law enforcement and other first responders get the training they need to recognize the signs and how to help people in these type of situations. I really feel like that's what they would do with the money if they get any. So that's about it. I just wanted to throw this out there because it was pretty big news, pretty interesting news. We know they're suing the Dirty Laundries, and I feel like that's a case that has some teeth to it, and I really hope they win that because I'm not a fan of the Dirty Laundries. This one, I don't know, though. So let me know in the comments what you guys think. Do you think that they've got a leg to stand on with this one? Do you think it's going to go anywhere? Do you think it'll get any traction? What do you think's going to happen? Like, how do you feel about it? Do you think it's just that they file it? I mean, as a parent, I could see wanting to go after any and everybody that I could, but at the same time, like I said, we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know if it would have made a difference or not, and that's really sad because Gabby did not deserve her life to be taken that way. So thank you everybody for coming on here for a few minutes with me and talking this out, and let me know in the comments what you think. Give this video a thumbs up, like, comment, share, do all the things. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do that. We're starting to grow and it's really exciting. I don't know, maybe we're going to make a donation if we ever hit our subscriber goal. Maybe that'll be at the Gabby Petito Foundation. I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, thank you for stopping by, and I will see you guys in the next one. Love you.